The pioneers were, by and large, a taciturn lot, reserved and sober Germans and Scandinavians, who rarely put their thoughts or feelings down on paper, and when they did, avoided hyperbole at all costs. Yet their accounts of the blizzard of 1888 are shot through with amazement, awe, disbelief. There are thousands of these eyewitness accounts of the storm. Even those who never wrote another word about themselves put down on paper everything they could remember about the great blizzard of 1888. Indeed, it was the storm that has preserved these lives from oblivion. The blizzard literally froze a single day in time. It sent a clean, fine blade through the history of the prairie. It forced people to stop and look at their existences, the earth and sky they had staked their future on, the climate and environment they had brought their children to, the peculiar forces of nature and of nature's God that determined whether they would live or die. What follows is the story of this storm, and some of the individuals whose lives were forever changed by it. Parents who lost children, children who lost parents, fathers who died with their coats and their arms wrapped around their sons, sisters who lay side by side with their faces frozen to the ground, teachers who locked the schoolhouse doors to keep their students safe inside or led them to shelter or death when the roofs blew off their one-room schoolhouses. Here, too, is the story of the army officer paid by his government to predict the evolution of the storm and warn people of its approach. In a sense, it is a book about multiple and often fatal collisions between ordinary people going about their daily lives and the immense, unfathomable disturbances of weather. To understand the causes and consequences of these collisions, it's necessary to trace the elements involved to their sources and points of origin, to tease out from the detritus of the past how these particular families happened to find themselves in the path of the northwest wind on that particular day, to isolate the forces in the atmosphere that conspired and converged to create the wind and the deadly cold it carried in its wake, to see those atmospheric forces through the eyes of an army forecaster who had been trained to fight Indians, follow orders, and apply fixed rules. Everything changes, nothing does, the poet James Merrill wrote in a poem called After the Fire. The effects of disaster, no matter how extreme, do not last forever. We bury our dead, nurse the wounded, rebuild, and get on with our lives. Today, aside from a few fine marble headstones in country graveyards and the occasional roadside historical marker, not a trace of the blizzard of 1888 remains on the prairie. Yet, in the imagination and identity of the region, the storm is as sharply etched as ever. This is a place where blizzards kill children on their way home from school. To understand why and how the deadliest Midwestern blizzard happened the way it did is to understand something essential about the history of the American prairie. Indeed, about the history of America itself.